Hello, that is Janine from Lahari Peace, and we are here with our next interview with our next guest. It's Sen from the Sunshine Coast. Sen, you are a spiral practitioner. You founded the. Now I have to look everything up because it's so much. You're having so many puzzle pieces in your life. You founded the Footprint Connection Reflexology. You are a business mentor, an author, a speaker. You are a traveler and a change maker, and you are a mother. So that we will talk about those puzzle pieces definitely. It's very interesting to dive into all of that. First of all, the first question I ask everyone, when did you fall in love with Mother Earth and how?
It's a good question. I feel like there's several pieces to this. I feel like definitely when I was tiny and I was in nature, and I just sort of like, it was a summery day and there was this breeze coming through and it felt warm, and I could smell the hay, and it was just this most beautiful moment where I felt really happy. And I was like, what is this feeling? It's joy, it's happiness. Yes, I'm really happy. And that was kind of a moment where I was like, yeah, I'm really alive, and I really felt the summery warm earth, and it just felt really connected, and I was really little. So that was the first moment. But because in Germany it often got very cold and rainy, and not so much the summery warmth all year round, so I love traveling. And then when I traveled to Australia the first time when I was 19, I drove into the outback, and I saw red earth, and just those roads that lead from miles to miles, just really straight, and you can see from one point on the horizon to the next where you're going. And I just had this really strong feeling of, I'm coming home, I'm coming home, I'm coming home.
Yeah.
And it was this deeply spiritual connection to the earth, like deeper than ever before. And it was just that deep connection to actually the earth, not to all the human layers in between us and the earth, if that makes sense. So it really showed to me like just how much I was always feeling the disconnect in where I was growing up, although it was a very beautiful, picturesque landscape, like hills and rolling hills and lakes and mountains, but I always felt there were signs of people everywhere. And so I always craved to go to the Alps or to the ocean, to get away from just the human signs, the traces of fences and buildings, and just meet nature. So that's what I kind of came home to in the outback in the end.
So somehow indirectly it was guiding your way.
Yes, because I just needed the space of really feeling earth. And over the years of doing my healing work, I really reconnected and realized back then I just felt everything so much that I couldn't bypass it. It was just too much. Now that I've cleared so many layers, I feel like I'm much more ready to go back and actually truly connect to the earth without being distracted, I guess, by all the other emotional stuff that's hanging in the earth and in the land.
So
if that makes sense.
yeah. You wrote that book, Remember Who You Are. Is that part of your own journey to remember who you are, coming back to nature, reconnecting really with the roots again, with the soil?
It's a part of it, but it's not really the main message. The main message is really about being unapologetically you and sharing your gifts with the world. So really about how to get clarity about your purpose, how to get the confidence to then step out and share it, and then how to become visible and allow yourself and free yourself of anything that's holding you back from being authentically visible in the world, in our relationships, but also in the world in a bigger sense, and really sharing our gifts and making a bigger impact with being 100% ourselves. So that's what the book's about. And it's actually it turned into a massive piece of work. I was hoping to release it way earlier, but it all made sense in the end why it was delayed. And again, being a mum and having a busy business with lots of clients, it was really hard to squeeze out the last bits of times of being able to edit it and giving it the love that it needed at the end. But it was well worth it to wait and find that time and finish it properly. And everything makes so much more sense now, and it really finished that cycle, and it felt like now it's round, now it's ready to be released, versus a few months ago it wasn't like that. So that's all perfect. Mm.
One of the big points, right? You are writing, and then to say that is the moment of letting it go and saying that that's now not always perfect, but it's round, as you said. And to make that other circle round, tell us a little bit about your own journey to remember who you are.
It started when I was tiny, about 4 or 5, and I looked at my feet and I didn't like them because I felt I was so different to my mums and my sisters. And I was walking through a field of grass and I was like, why on earth are they so different? They're white, they're completely different, don't fit into shoes. Like, what on earth is going on, right? And I was like, am I really from the same family? Like, what? Are they telling me stories? And I am from the same family, but their feet were very, very differently. Like the shapes were very different. And so I started like observing and looking at people's shapes, feet and also body shapes and features, and how their personalities matched. And it was fascinating. And a friend later joined me, and we were always chatting about what we were observing and how that matched to what people were like and how they thought and felt. And then I got really sick at 16, and before that, like when I was younger, I was very connected with my intuition. And then there was those years in between where I was a teenager and I got busy and stuck into schoolwork and jobs and doing this and that and friendships, and it was just so much. And every time when I went traveling, I listened to my intuition fully. And every time when I came back, I got really sucked into the busy schedule and felt quite stressed and disconnected. And then I got really sick with 16 as a result from all the stress piling up. And that was a time when I really connected back for the first time massively. It really, it brought me first of all to this point of like losing all hope. I was really like, I was in massive pain for like 3.5 months. I could hardly go to school. And it was a really formative time, just because it was so painful and so at the floor and on the ground pretty much, and just all the specialists saying, we don't know how to help you anymore, nothing's helping, worst case, which was not really what I wanted to hear. Mm-hmm. And then one day I was pretty much on the floor going, well, is this it now? I thought there was something bigger, but maybe that was just an illusion. My ego was thinking I've got something bigger to do, whatever. And I was like, I don't know what this is all about. And then this voice just went, no, you've got something bigger to do. You need to share something with the world. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. And it just went, you just got to believe, right? And I was just like, well, I got nothing else to go with right now. So I guess I'll just trust that, just throw my last little bit of hope into it. And the very next day, a friend of mine gave me a number of a natural therapist in the hills of South Germany and said, check this number out of this guy. He's been helping so many people that were really, that lost hope. So check it out. So I went there, and within 3.5 days, I was better. I was nearly back to normal. And it was like the start for my journey into natural therapies. That time was just so, it was such a big change, but also I really realized, wow, I would never want to go through that pain again. But at the same time, I was so grateful for it. I felt like I had learned so much. Like even in that time already where I was just coming out of it, I was like, I learned to understand how people feel when they don't have any hope left, and when they're utterly in pain, and when you think there's nothing else. And it just gave me so much of a deeply felt understanding, that in that moment I saw sort of a visual. It was like this gold nugget came out, and I was like, oh, thank you, I get it, I take that, I receive that gift. And literally everything else, all the pain and all the stuff I didn't need to hold on to anymore, just pretty much drifted off. It was like literally like one of those moments when you're standing at the beach in the waves, and the waves roll to your legs and then drag away the sand, and it just pulls it away. And it just felt like, oh wow, I got it. And then it just drifted away, and it just felt like it healed in that moment. It just felt so closed and round. And and from that moment I realized, okay, well, stress is a killer, and you always need to listen to your intuition, and body, mind and spirit are really one. Like I felt like, thoughts, feelings and the physical is all one. And from that moment onwards, I pretty much explored all healing modalities under the sky to feed into that, like how to read and understand the body and how to get the messages out that we get through struggle, but what it actually means underneath in an emotional sense and in a belief sense, and how we can then shift it, and how people look at all this all over the world in different cultures and different backgrounds and ancient civilizations, everyone in different ways. But I pretty much just went and studied people's belief systems and religions and consciousness and their ways of healing each other. And that all came together over the years. And the more I was then working with people later, I studied naturopathy and herbalism and reflexology and body work, and I kind of put it all together. And the more I allowed myself to utilize my intuition and shared it, they always said it's spot on, right? So like whatever I said was then backed up, and I was like, okay, well, so there must be something to it. So I just trusted more, I guess. And the more I trusted it, the clearer it became and the stronger it became. And so, yeah, it's been always about empowering others to really connect back with their intuition, their power, so that they can, do what they're here for and live a much more fulfilling life. Actually saying yes to what they're feeling inside us and their inner calling. I call it their inner calling. And actually building a life and a business around it that allows them to really express who they are, but then make a living out of it, rather than having to go to work and work really hard and get paid hardly anything, and then scraping a bit of time together to help others because they feel called to. Instead of ripping each other apart and living a stressful life, I just feel like it's all about bringing it all together and living a really fulfilling life all around. And that's been pretty much my journey helping others with. And then over the last couple of years, I've come across the Spiral, which is like an amazing modality to just pretty much and it's a journey that you guide people through, but it's pretty much like an 8-week journey where we clear 22 root emotions, and it's on a scale of consciousness, really helping taking the charge out of the reactions and the patterns that we all have around emotions. And so instead of like getting excited about connecting to our dreams or saying, yes, I've got this idea and this is amazing, and then maybe a few hours later or a few days later you have something happening in your life that brings up guilt or shame, and then boom, you're stuck and you go, oh, who am I to think I could do that? And like, how can I say this? Or why would anyone believe me? All those sort of fears that people usually get around this topic, we can clear the charge around it all, and then that means you can be excited. And even if something happens that would bring you into shame or guilt for maybe a second or a minute, you'll move through it with ease and you don't get stuck in it. So it really helps taking away the brakes and all these patterns of emotions and sabotage that we all get wrapped up in so easily, and actually be able to connect with our purpose and act it out. And so that's pretty much helped like take away a lot of the conditioning and the frames, and I really realized it's all like a cage that we can lift off. What a limitation is like this massive cage, and we can really tap into the limitless potential version that we are. And that's pretty much what pretty much brought me then fully back to feeling I now know and I remember who I am, and I can help others do the same.
So the moment you had, I call it now the moment that you had when you were 16, it not just let you understand what is happening when you're really deep down, but even it created kind of empathy for other people, or was that empathy already there? And when did you...
That was always there.
Always.
Yeah.
And you said that you had to bring everything together, and intuition is probably one of the main keys. How could you integrate your intuition? Was that the hardest step, to really trust in your intuition? And because we are also head focused, especially in Germany, always thinking and overthinking 3, 4, 5 times. And then intuition is something we ban so much on this planet, and especially in certain countries. So what was the key in there? When did you say intuition now really needs to play a big role?
It was actually shown to me just recently when I was editing on my book, just how it actually started when I was tiny. And I thank my mum for it. Like, I'm so grateful. I've got the most amazing mum. And with the last 16 years working with thousands of people, I know I'm so blessed. There was only one other client that ever had a mum like mine, in terms of that really helped them connect so deeply with who they were. And so I know I'm very privileged with that, but I really want to share about my mum, because when I was little, I remember this moment. I was maybe 3 or 4, and I went up to her in the kitchen. She was cooking something, and I grabbed her skirt and I went, "Mum, when I'm grown up, I want to travel the world." And she just looked in my eyes and went, "Sand, I know you will. I know you will." And I knew she knew, and I just kind of went, "Yep, cool, she's got it," right? And then maybe, I don't know, I can't remember like what the distance of the days were, but that was sort of the first moment when I was like, there's reflection back to me going, yep, that's right. Whatever you're feeling is right. And then I remember walking after her into the bedroom soon after, and I said something, shared something. She just like turned around and went, "But Sand, you know what you need and want. Just trust that." And I was like, it was literally this moment of like focusing inwards, going, instead of going for her advice, I was like being pointed back. And then I went, "Yeah, you're right. I do know. Oh, so I guess I'll just trust that." And she's like, "Yep." And I'm like, "Okay then." And that was pretty much the moment I was like, yeah, I got to listen to that. And every time when I went traveling, she let me travel by myself. I think I was 11 the first time when I went with my sister to England, and when I was 13 myself. And she always said, "Sand, I trust you. You can go. I trust you because I know you listen to your heart and to your intuition. So I know you're safe. But you always have to promise me to listen." And I was like, "Sure, I will." And so as soon as I'd leave home, I'd put the backpack on and I'd put my intuition hat on and going, I have to listen to every little sign, because if I don't, I won't be safe. And that's how I saved myself out of so many precarious situations in the world. And you probably can tell a story of that too, one or two. And that's pretty much how it happened. Yeah. And later with my work, it was pretty much just, it was always there, but I was sort of a bit scared sharing it, because I was like, I had a boyfriend when I was a teenager, and he was always like, "Well, how would you know?" Because I would be looking at people and they would be talking, and I'd be like, "Oh, they've just lost someone. Look, they lost someone, and they're really sad." And he'd be like, "Well, how would you know?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's not right. I don't know." And then if we'd talk to them later, for some reason, there would be a conversation. It would always turn out as a true story, right? And I'd be like, "Oh, so it was true. Oh, there you go." But I wasn't really fully going with it, going, "Oh yeah, look, it's spot on." I wasn't doing that. I was just like, "Oh yeah, cool." And I kind of always went, you just dismissed a little bit. And then later when we split up, I was like, now it's time to fully listen to what I know, right? And it was hilarious. And that it just came through stronger and stronger and stronger.
Wow, when I listen to that, I see like there's always your feedback. You listen to the inside, you get the feedback in the outside. Like the situation with your mom, you get this feedback inside again, and yeah, it is as it is. Wow, beautiful. It seems to go through your entire life.
It is.
And talking about traveling, you say as well you travel through the body of your clients. So let's go into the content of your work. When you do reflexology, for example, you can see their entire soul work and passions, and what they are hooked up in moment, the layers you said as well of things we are carrying. So we carrying them in our feet as well, and then you travel through the body, through the consciousness of someone else. Can you explain that a little bit? It sounds very beautiful.
So there's like two different ways I work. One part is the one straight through the feet, and then there's the other way where I just work with people, even online, doesn't really matter where, and I just listen to the story. And these days I don't even need the feet so much anymore. I needed to have them for a long time, but now more and more I just even know how the feet will look. So it's just like, it doesn't really matter. But it's just because I've learned to read the body so much that I can do it either way now, and I have lots of online clients that I can just travel through whatever as well, and I just know what's there. but that's because of what you experience. So in the beginning, it started by doing reflexology with people, which is very much representing, or reflexology is based on the theory that the whole body is represented in a map in miniature in the feet. So that's the physical. And so we can start reading the physical and understanding what's happening in the body. But then doing that in a very specialized way, because you know, a lot of people know reflexology from Bali or Thailand or the spa on the corner, and that's not really the reflexology I'm referring to here. So they often don't really know what it is all about or how it's connected. I've had many you know, treatments before, massages there before, where I ask them, you know, how's it connected, and do they understand where they are? And they go, oh well, how would I remember all these points? And like, it's like sesame seeds sprinkled all over, right? And so they don't have any connection how it actually is quite like a very simple map that we can lay upon the body. And so when I teach my students, I always give them a really quick framework of how to actually apply the map to the feet. So it's really easy, so they can start seeing it instantly without having to go, well, how would everything be laid out in the feet? So it's really a map that we can go through. And then the feet reading comes on top, where we look at the shapes of the toes and the feet in general, and like the texture, and all that tells me about the expression modalities of people. So intuitively, I'd always get stories coming through just by touching the feet, but we can also read it. We can actually learn how to read and understand the feet and the body through the feet. And we can then learn how to travel through the physical, in the physical, and understand, because every body part and organ has a story to tell and is like a personality. And so it's really about connecting people with the understanding of what every part of the body means and what it's speaking about. And then we're storing specific emotions in different areas. So that's all kind of connecting that. When I talk to people, it's really about listening to their stories and their struggles, and all that relates back to whatever ailments they've got, and all of that is connected. It kind of is like I hear a few bits and I can see exactly what they've gone through, what emotional patterns they're going to be struggling with, and what their purpose is, what their expression modalities are, which are really important to create flow in life and in business, and success in business with ease, rather than the struggle and the pushing and the making it hard. and all of that is written in our body and in our feet. So the feet are just pretty much a miniature map to read all of that in a nutshell, rather than having to look into all different aspects of life. We can just go straight to the feet or listen to the story, and it makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yes, through that disconnection that we have to ourselves, and especially when it's so present in the feet and imprinted in the feet, is the moment that we are completely disconnected, referring to that moment that we are not really rooted in that world anymore, and that our roots are so cut off by losing tradition, losing the connection to nature, and losing values, self-worth, trust. All the things, is that rootlessness part of our major problem?
I definitely reckon disconnection is, in my own terms, it's pretty much either connection or disconnection. So everything is about that. So when we're in connection, it's about really embodying who you are in your body, meaning I have this term called spirit embodiment. So it's what it stands for is pretty much that the way I see it is we're all a spirit having a physical experience in this life. And so our job is to really embody our purpose and our spirit in our body. So it's like a lot of people actually see body, mind, and spirit separate. I see it as one, but a lot of people experience them as separate. So the way that shows up is, for example, they go to work and they want to do something different, and they feel really not happy about going to work, but they make themselves go anyway, right? And then they might feel disconnected from their emotions, or a bit shut down, or a bit sort of resentful, and put the wall up, right? And that blocks out abundance, it blocks out joy, it makes you feel more disconnected from yourself, and you feel really powerless in your life because you don't really have a choice then, right? And so that can bring up a lot of resentment and all these other patterns that come up with it. So this is a level of disconnect where we're then not really in our body. And it can also come up with those that feel a lot And I've seen that a lot in my practice because I've always felt a lot and I had to learn how to manage that. There's a lot of people that feel a lot and they're very receptive and they feel about, the energies of and where people are at around them everywhere. But what often happens is that they then disconnect from their own feelings and needs because they're so engaged in everyone else's that it's really hard to then remember where you start and where you end yourself. And the biggest task to learn for all those people that feel so much, including myself, was to really embody my spirit, fully claim this physical body like a cup, like a glass that you fill with water. Like it's really about claiming every cell of yours and not leaving a gap. Because when we leave a gap, that can be filled with anything else that's around us, meaning could be arguments in the room, it could be weird energy that you're sensing or picking up of someone else, and it's just not really solid. But when we learn how to really hold our space in our body, we feel really strong and clear and calm and centered, and we can keep moving and doing our thing. And now sometimes this is not so easy and we can't always do it just consciously. Sometimes there's trauma up and it makes us feel really weird in the body. We can't really quite figure out what it is. We can't really come back in. It's like you can't connect. And it's like, yeah, like you're saying, you can't connect properly to your roots or the ground. And it just feels weird, like you just can't ground yourself. And that's when there's stuff up, like either consciously or very deeply subconsciously, it's triggered up. And when there's trauma triggered up, meaning any experiences from past lives or this life, they're all there. And if we don't acknowledge them and know about them or bring them up into the very conscious mind, they're going to play out and they're going to keep you back or away from actually embodying fully who you are and then claiming your space in the world, as in making the impact or taking action, because you won't want to be here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and claiming your space is one of the major things, I guess, as well, because if you don't embody yourself, you don't take space in your body, so you can't take space in the world. And
exactly.
that then empowers you to create whatever you want, which means in your case, you created business. So let's talk about business a little bit. How did that align with that massive, pushing businesses that are out there? When I read on your website and in this guidebook of mentoring business, that you actually don't sell something, you just offer. That's amazing. Usually when I get that information from Spirit Business and similar businesses, they always still want to sell something, even if they give free workshops and this and that. But if I read yours, you're just offering, and that's amazing. You're just offering yourself, your service, and your story, and through your business. I wouldn't even say it's business, it's just offering. It's something very different. How do you feel about that? How is that happening within you, or what's happening within you that you created a business?
I guess I've always thought I would do my own thing one day when I was growing up, because my parents were self-employed too. They had their own business, and I could never see myself being employed by anyone over long term. I couldn't really imagine that. So whenever I had jobs, I'd get really bored really quickly because I can't really imagine staying there. I need to do my own thing and create. I'm a creator. My profile is a creator. So so I just gotta create and follow that flow that's coming up, the ideas, the inspiration. For quite a few years, it was quite tricky to see a clear picture of it and what that means and what's really coming up. I had so many ideas, and then I wouldn't really finish one fully off before I had the other thing. And I'm going, yeah, but does this one need to be released first or that? And how does that all come across as a brand? And it was quite sort of like a long journey, right? Or it felt like it anyway. It wasn't that long, but it felt internally, I was like, oh, I want this to happen now, And so, yeah, it was just like, I just really knew that I wanted to fully follow my my purpose after we sold our shop many years ago, just before we met. And and I just knew I had to follow that. So it was pretty much making sure I know how to actually put into words what I offer and make sure that people understand what it is so that they can go I want that or I don't want that, right? And that was pretty much the start. And then I studied lots about business, but always going the heart-centered business pathway. I never wanted to become pushy with anything. I never wanted to become salesy. I've always hated that. And in the past, I really struggled a lot with even having to ask for money or for asking for more, because I was really torn into that. I want to just really help people and offer my services. I don't really want to make it about money. But at the same time, I had big dreams, and I also have a family, and I thought, we want to see our family in Germany again and in New Zealand. We don't really want to just hide in the bush, which was pretty much the other option. So we were like, well, we have to make this work. And in that moment, quite a few years ago, like probably 6 years ago or something, I really realized how it was time to make a choice, whether we wanted to dive either into the work life and make lots of money, it didn't feel right, or whether we wanted to live in the bush somewhere and not ever see our families again because we wouldn't have the money for it, and travel, which wasn't an option for me because I love travel. And I was like, yeah, we were both like, that's not us either. And then I saw, like, in the mountains where there's a clear pathway on the top, like on the ridge of the top of the mountains. And I saw this ridge and I was like, you just got to walk the ridge. There's not many people that walk the ridge. There's more and more, but there's not that many in the world. And you got to walk the ridge where you have both worlds meeting each other, and you need to walk that ridge and help others to walk it too that are ready for that. And then that was pretty much the moment when, yeah, that really kick-started more and more. And it wasn't an easy journey. No way. But certainly the most rewarding.
Okay, so the challenges came with it, and intuition really helped you as well a lot, and the family as well. So the business that now creates money, and it's still often still a struggle for other people. So do you recommend a certain path, or does everyone has to go by itself through that path? So it's like your own journey that tells you how to create something good in the world and to make money with it.
I guess the way I see it, first of all, there's a lot of mentors out there that teach like a cookie cutter system in the terms of like, this is how I generated wealth and success, and therefore you need to do this, that, and that step, and then you're good. And that's never worked for me. And I also don't like telling anyone else that, because I know we're all very unique and we all have our own expression modalities, like I mentioned earlier. And if we all expect ourselves to work the same way as everyone else, then it wouldn't make sense. So to make a bit more of a tangible example, if we look at the connectors that need to speak and present, for example, they call a star profile in wealth dynamics, they need to be on stage and speak and be seen. And that's their main profile, right? That's their main expression. So you can't expect a person like that have the same business pathway as someone that's more like a trader, that manages numbers really well and hides in the background a bit more and does all the nitty-gritty stuff underneath the surface, but is a genius at it, right? So we can't expect the same pathways here because it's a completely different form of expression. But if we honor our own forms of expression and really know how to take the steps from there with the right mentoring that's focused on your unique abilities and how to set them forth, then we can really create success in a flowing way that doesn't feel hard, or as hard as it could be. And with the mentoring that I do really connect people with their own truth, and so that you can access their own truth and get the guidance. So I've fused the spirit and strategy together, where we can really see what steps will be really making a lot of sense, and they're the ones that connect you with the strategy and the systems. But then it's really about clearing whatever's in a way that's holding you back from really stepping into your own power to step into that, whatever it is. So it needs to be really in alignment with who you are.
Yeah, and it changes the relationship to money as well. You mentioned before
Definitely.
that definitely. So how is your
Definitely.
relationship, and how did it change for you?
Massively, seriously, massively. When I was growing up, I grew up in a it could, like, a lot of people were saying we were wealthy. I didn't see it as that, but like from the outside, it looked very wealthy. From the inside, we had times when everything went really well, but then also times when the economy faltered quite a while, and it was a struggle. And I remember some days where I was a young teenager, my mum even struggled getting the right food on the table. There was sort of a little bit of that time there, but we were never allowed to share it with, you know, people in town or our friends and other people that would talk, because it was a small town, and the small town mentality where people, once they start, everyone knows. So it was kind of like, it didn't really work like that. So we had to just keep everything zipped up, and so they had this pretend show going sometimes. I didn't like it, because I'm all about authenticity and transparency, and I don't like it when it's like yeah, it looks like this show on a mask in the front and it's actually completely different. So what I watched was this sort of this gap. And I remember this this party that I hosted one day. I can't remember my age, but there was this lady there, and she wore a black singlet, which was like, you know, it could have been from H&M for $5 or something, you know. Like, it could have been a simple singlet, but she said it's from Armani and it was 300 euros, and look at this. And everyone was like, wow. And not my parents, they're not into that, but the other people that were there. I was like, seriously, guys, like, is there nothing better that you can do with this money? Like, and I was going into full-on judgmental zone in that moment, going like, well, if money means that, this disconnect and this completely forgetting about what people need in the world, because, you know, there's people living in slums, right? And so I was like, look at this disconnect. Well, if you get that disconnected, then I'd rather not have any money and be super poor and be connected to my loved ones. So that was the decision that I made. And there was a lot of other things that backed that belief up, don't you worry. But it was pretty much like this massive gap between, I rather chose connection and love and didn't worry about the money part. And for some reason it always worked out for me. The money part always sort of worked out. But then later, when my husband and I came together and we had a family, we really realized that money part wasn't sorted at all. And so then it was like, well, we better do something. My life, everything, when I turned 30, I was like, I looked at my life like a, you know, like a cake, and I looked at all the pieces and I was like, everything's really amazing. Like, I've really manifested and created every piece that I've always wanted. I wanted to, you know, study my dream field early. I wanted to travel the world for many years, and I wanted to work with the field that I have the biggest impact and I love. And I wanted to have kids before 30, and so that I can be a young mum. So all of that actually happened, right, without me thinking about it. It was just like I turned 30 and I was like, it's all come true. I was like, wow. And then I was like, okay, so what now? And then I looked at my life and I went, all these pieces are amazing except the money piece. I was like, that's not good. And so in that moment we were like, okay, so we need to do something here, because this money piece needs to come in as well, because only then it's a whole cake. Otherwise we're always lagging somewhere, right? And I was like, yeah, we want it all. Like, we can have all these pieces. I know it's possible. And that was kind of the time when then that walking the ridge vision came through as well. And it's really about bringing the worlds together. And then I realized I need to heal my money story. And so from that moment, I then worked lots on my money mindset and my money stories that I've kind of, you know, stored all throughout my lifetime. And I did lots of clearing around it. And I really realized it's all going back to the split brain hemisphere syndrome. Well, first of all, it goes back to the like, first of all, the fact that about 40% of our subconscious mind are governed by 40 generations that came before us, which takes us back to the 5th and 6th century. And when we look at history, there's a lot of persecution and wars happening, and people weren't really allowed to speak their truth. And if they did, they might have lost their life. Yeah. So there was a lot of trauma locked in around either, you know, you're either working or you are a spiritual person or a royal person that gets looked after. You don't have to work. So it's kind of really decided for you where you are. You can't choose. And so people were just working, or they were royal or spiritual, being looked after. And when you look at that, it's quite a defined gap there that people don't question it. It's like, oh, it's just how it is, if I like it or not, right? And so these days, that split brain hemisphere syndrome is still playing out so much, where people go between love and connection, or money, like in my case, or they go between purpose and work, and like, you know, creating wealth and purpose. It's all separate. It's like either or. And so when we when we look at people that want to actually live their inner calling and actually do what they're here for, that's when the gap really shows, because they might be living a really wealthy life already, but they're not standing in their power with their own message yet. They might be selling someone else's work and they stand behind them, and it's easy to, you know, kind of promote someone else's work. But once it becomes your own message and you have to share that with the world, that's when all the stuff comes out. When you have to start being really truthful to others and the world in a bigger sense, who you are, what you believe in, what you don't believe in, and be ready for being criticized as well. So it's all these aspects where we need to be really seen, but also it allows us to then create the connection in our brain house to then allow money to come in, because it's then really of finding a balance between giving and receiving, and it's closing the gap. It's pretty much closing the gap on all levels. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Quite fascinating. Yeah, that, wow. I mean, like 40 generations, as you said, that it's just a lot of stuff that is, on our shoulders, more or less, speaking in pictures, or in our genetic field, or whatever you want to call that field. Very interesting. So, and it's just one aspect, and there are other aspects that we have to clean out as well, because we are living now. We are not living 40 generations ago. Very interesting. But as well, you are in the group of change makers in or at the Sunshine Coast. So what, not just for the Sunshine Coast, but what are you aiming for yourself as well? What change do you want to be, and what do you want to see?
Yeah, pretty much the way I see my role is really to help people take the brakes off, so that they can fully embody their limitless potential and then make the positive impact that they're here for. So I see my role really as in helping, pretty much getting out of my own way so that I can just let come through whatever's there, and helping people to take their brakes off so that they can bring through whatever they're bringing through. And really what I see it as is we all have something really unique to share, and it's really really important that we all bring our music out and we're not dying before we actually share it, because the thing is that we all connect with different people, and we all have a different frequency or different energy to us, and we all resonate with different people at different times. So sometimes we hear the same message from 10 different people. So sometimes we hear a podcast, an interview, and we read books, and then we study something, but it's all the same topic, but we love it from different people. And we're not going to be working one-on-one with everyone and go as deep as with everyone. We all just explore like little parts to the puzzle. And so it's really important that we all go out and share what we've got to share, because you never know who that person is that you might be coming across that you can then help to change their life with either something little or big that you do. And so it's really important that we all step forward. And a really pivotal moment was about 4 years ago. I really connected with my big why, what's really giving me motivation every single day. Is I caught up with a friend of mine, and she's very connected with the Aboriginal elders, like a circle of women. And she caught up with them, and I saw her after, and I was like, what's happened? Like, you look like you're carrying sort of something. And she was like, well, it was quite serious. And I was like, okay, what did they say? And so she said that the elders, and that was 4 years ago, said we only have 11 years left to live. In those 11 years, humanity needs to stop to move even a single feather, and we have to drop everything that we're doing. And in that time, we can't move a feather. And if that happens, then the world can still restore. But if that's not happening, and we all know that it's not happening, then there won't be any return anymore. So that was their prophecy. And in that moment, I was like, okay, well, we have two choices. We can either go into powerless and fear and not knowing what to do and freak out and go, oh my goodness, the time's over, it's done, and feel really powerless and angry about it. Or we can say, all right, that's very full on, and of course it's not going to change, and everyone's just going to drop producing and creating and pumping things out into the air, and we're all consuming. So what other pathways are there? And in that moment, like, I thought of the scale of consciousness by Dr. Hawkins. And, you know, he says pretty much that he did lots of kinesiological measurements and like collected data, so much data. And it's also the scale of consciousness that we work with in the spiral with the emotions. But what he also measured was that one avatar, and he referred to an avatar like a person like Mahatma Gandhi, like highly, highly conscious. Not every one of us gets to this level of consciousness, but at the level of 700 or 800 that Mahatma Gandhi was placed, he was actually affecting, like, I can't remember the exact number, I think like it's like 40 million or something of people that are in a frequency of less than 300, which is meaning caught in struggle, in fear, survival, which is 85+% of the population in the world are stuck in that area under 300. So stuck in the emotions that are just pretty much to do with survival. And these people, they don't have time and space to think of purpose and what am I here for and how can I express this to the world. But also this frequency is a lot even prevalent in our society. Like, you'd think they could have the chance to think about what they want to do, but when people are so stuck in their emotional patterns, they don't even realize how much they're caught up in it. And from that place, you can't create and you can't share your purpose and you can't share your gifts and you hold back. And so all the people around you are not benefiting from your gifts either. And so if we can all take that step and reconnect back with who we are and create more fulfillment in our own life, will automatically help impacting others more. And the more fulfilled and looked after you are inside and connected, the more you want to help others because you got way more to share. And it's then not a push, it's just kind of pouring out of your cup because you got, like, there's just so much there. And that way we can affect everyone else so much more positively, and there's such much bigger of an impact than the other way around when we're trying to do something but we're depriving ourselves of the help or the support or the connection inside. And when we allow ourselves to connect back, our consciousness can go up and it rises, and therefore we affect others around us, even if we don't touch them literally face to face or with our body. Just even the periphery, they just feel it, they get uplifted without even noticing what's happening. And I've been watching that over the last quite a lot of years, developing, like, initially working with people, connecting them with their purpose, and they were sort of waking up to the thought that there could be purpose. And then over the years, all of a sudden they was like, I need to know my purpose. And then all of a sudden they were like, there's no time to lose. And then in the last years, I'm getting so many people know about Dr. Joe Dispenza or De Martini, which is all great. And there's this lift, like, all these people have done so much lifting, heavy lifting already, because all these millions of people have been touched. And the more people have been touched, the more it's been rising. And therefore I see that people are more ready to shift their baggage. They're more ready to look at it and actually take the steps to create a life that's in alignment, rather than before where they felt much more bogged down. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Of course, it makes sense. It's the consciousness globally rises by each one stepping into purpose, fitting it into.
Exactly. So yeah.
Great.
Exactly right. And that's when I was just like, that kind of just made me then go, well, I'm doing my bit. I need to get out of my own way, get my human self out of the way, and just go, I have to step forward and just let this come through, and be truthful to that feeling, to that knowing. And that's all what I need to do. So it's not always easy, but it's definitely the most rewarding pathway to truth. That's for sure.
So you recommend to everyone, go clean your shit?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, because when we do it and when we clear our baggage, our shit, pretty literally what it's called, and the conditioning that we're all held in, we all carry so much conditioning without realizing, because you're either aware of it and you might be fighting it, or you're in it, but you're never completely away from it. You're always kind of in this process of struggle with it. And most people are not even aware of what conditioning or dogma even means. And it's pretty much all what's indoctrinated into us without even knowing about it. We're born into different countries, and in the different countries we all think this is just how things are done, and you go to a different country and you find out this is how things are done here. And so so wherever you are, you're just kind of facing these different ways of doing things, or a different beingness, and you're not realizing it unless you travel a lot like you and I have, that where you see it so much. And most people are not so much aware of that. And when we look at places like for example England, people step on your foot, and the person receiving the step goes, pardon me, excuse me, I'm so sorry, I'm in the way, type thing. And you go to Germany, and often you have the queues, and people are sort of, you know, going, me first. And it's much more sort of restless, and like a bit more of the individual mentality. And then you go to places like Taiwan, where I found, you know, like in Bali in Thailand, there's lots of scooters, but instead of them blowing the horn all over, in Taiwan, it's very peaceful. And it's very like, they all drive this way and that way, and everyone knows where to walk and where to drive, where to stand, without anyone standing there with a guard, or like a guard or a pistol or anything, or no signs either. They just all know. And when we look at their minds, or how they feel in it, there's harmony there, but then there's also no questioning there. It's just how it is. And then that creates a harmony, but it's also very easily swayed. They just follow. Versus in Germany, you're being told when you're little, don't take my word for it, go and research it yourself. So you're more individualized in that sense, so you don't believe everything, and therefore you're not going to just stand still and be in harmony and just accept it all over you, you know, like a shower over you. It's just, you question it. So you have all these different places, and all of it is conditioning. We're all conditioned to believe things in a certain way. And when we realize how much it is, and when we clear the charge that we hold around our perceptions, and freely change our perceptions, that's when the magic happens, where you can really start freeing yourself and feel liberated, and can really connect with who you are in a clearer way than ever before, and where you can then really step forward and create life and business, or whatever you want to create, in the way you want to create it, and create the results with it too.
Dreaming reality into being, says, or is the title of Alberto Villoldo book. He works with the shamans in Peru, and they all talk about dreaming and the colibri level of consciousness, and how you dream reality into being, which is very beautiful as well. So it's pretty much that your creativity, it comes pours from your dreams, and you bring it out into the world, which just works if you liberate it, and without all those conditionings. Cool, great. I think you.
Yeah. So the thing. Sorry, there's one thing about is, I guess, like you can dream and manifest your dreams into reality. I've done that a long time. However, when it's about certain aspects that you might be rejecting, like money, or like this, or like that, whatever it is, there will be a dissonance there. And no matter what you then change your mind to in the conscious mind, your body will hold the beliefs that have been stored in there for a long time. And so then you won't be able to create it, whatever you were dreaming of. So the way I've manifested my whole life did not work for money. It did not, because I thought I could apply the same rules like to everything else. But because I held these subconscious beliefs in my body, and the memories and the trauma around it, there was no way that I would allow it in. And there's so much more to it, like also with deserving levels, and there's a bigger aspect to talk about in there. But really it's about really going deep, because if you're not getting the results in any area of your life that you desire, you really need to look at what's really in there that's blocking it, because there's always something that blocks it. And when we then lift that, it can come to us with ease, rather than us having to struggle for it.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. from the spiritual mind, that everyone believes everything is just floaty and goes easy and so on. And then there are certain points and we say, oh, we just go around it somewhere. No, 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 you go right into it. It's like a labyrinth and you have to go into the middle to find out what's there, what's the key, and then you have to make your way out somehow with, yeah, clearing the conditioning. Yeah, that's a very important point. And yeah, so I thank you very much. It was very good to talk to you and to get to know your insights and how you create what you create and what you are here for. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.